You go to bed every night thinking you're giving your body the rest it needs, but what if you're not? What if, without realizing it, the very position you sleep in, the one that feels the most natural, the most comforting, is actually harming you silently, slowly, night after night? Not with sharp pain or sudden illness, but with subtle damage to your breath, your spine, your heart, your brain. Until one day, you wake up not just tired but changed. And no one tells you. It was sleep that did it. This isn't a scare tactic. It's a wake-up call. Because after 60, sleep isn't just recovery, it's risk. And if you're not sleeping in the right position, you may be unknowingly accelerating the very decline you're trying to avoid. But here's the good news: fixing it isn't hard. You just have to know what your body's been trying to tell you all along. 1. Flat on the back, arms at sides, unsupported. May cause airway obstruction, poor circulation, and lower back strain. Can subtly increase vulnerability and nighttime anxiety. Fix. Slightly elevate the head and place a pillow under knees. It starts like any other night. The lights go off, the room quiets, and your body, worn from another long day, surrenders itself to the comfort of your bed. But what if that comfort is a silent lie? What if the way you've positioned your body in bed tonight isn't restoring you, but slowly eroding your health, one breath, one heartbeat, one restless morning at a time? We're told that sleep is healing, rejuvenating, essential, and it is, but not all sleep is created equal. And for people over 60, it's not just how long you sleep that matters, it's how you position yourself while you do it. Because the position you default to night after night might be working against your circulation, your breathing, your spine, and even your mental clarity. Without a single warning sign until damage has already taken hold. This isn't fear-mongering. It's physiology, and tonight we begin a journey through the seemingly innocent postures that might be quietly sabotaging the very rest you depend on to stay healthy. Because sleep, especially in later life, must be intentional, and that begins with awareness. So let's start where most people never question: the classic flat on your back position, arms at your sides, the one that looks peaceful in sleep. Studies, hospital beds, and spa ads, but hides a series of micro-threats especially dangerous to older adults. Now, at first glance, lying on your back with arms straight down seems like a logical, even ideal position. It keeps the spine aligned, reduces pressure on the stomach, and doesn't compress any one side of the body. But here's what most people over 60 don't realize: as we age, our muscles weaken, our respiratory strength declines slightly, and our body becomes more sensitive to gravitational shifts, meaning what used to be neutral in our 30s can become restrictive or even risky in our 70s. When you sleep completely flat, gravity pulls your tongue backward toward your throat, particularly in deeper sleep stages when the muscles naturally relax. And while this might not cause full-blown sleep apnea in everyone, it does result in subtle airway obstruction for many older adults, reducing oxygen flow, stressing the heart, and diminishing brain recovery. And you don't always wake up gasping to know something's wrong. Instead, you wake up foggy, drained, irritable, or strangely anxious, and you think maybe it's your diet, or your age, or your blood sugar, but it could be the simplest culprit of all: posture. Take the story of Henry, a 74-year-old retired engineer from Arizona who did everything right. He walked daily, ate clean, limited alcohol, but still woke up every morning feeling like he hadn't slept at all. He chalked it up to getting older until his doctor ordered a sleep study and discovered mild oxygen desaturation happening multiple times per night, no major apnea episodes, no loud snoring. Just subtle airway restriction that compromised his sleep quality after a small change, raising the head of his bed by 10 degrees and placing a small pillow under his knees. His blood pressure stabilized, his mental sharpness returned, and, perhaps most surprisingly, he began remembering dreams again, something he hadn't done in over a decade, proving that even minor mechanical shifts in sleep posture can trigger powerful improvements in overall well-being. But it doesn't stop at oxygen. Sleeping flat on your back without any leg support also flattens the lumbar curve of your spine, which for older adults with reduced core strength and less flexibility can strain the lower back, tighten the hamstrings, and cause joint stiffness that lingers into the day. And here's the thing, it's not usually acute pain, it's that dull, heavy ache in your lower back that slowly fades after you start moving around in the morning. The ache you've come to accept as just aging, when in fact it may be avoidable with the right adjustments. Add to this the psychological component of lying fully exposed. Arms to the sides, eyes to the ceiling. It's a posture of vulnerability, not comfort, especially for seniors living alone or experiencing nighttime anxiety. And studies in sleep psychology show that posture directly affects emotional tone. During sleep, people who sleep with even minor protective cues like a pillow between the knees or a light throw over their midsection report lower levels of nighttime panic and fewer sleep disruptions, reminding us that safety is both physical and perceptual. So what can you do if this is your go-to-sleep position? You don't have to abandon back sleeping altogether, but you do need to support it. Raise your upper body slightly with a wedge pillow or adjustable bed to keep your airway open. Place a small cushion under your knees to restore the natural spinal curve, and consider a thin neck pillow to prevent head drop. These tiny shifts can ease respiratory tension, reduce back strain, and improve circulatory flow without disrupting your sleep. Because aging gracefully doesn't mean giving up comfort, it means refining it. And remember this, your sleep posture is a nightly habit. And like all habits, it accumulates over time. What seems harmless in a single night becomes significant across months and years. So instead of ignoring those morning stiffness cues or blaming your age for your fatigue, listen to your body. Check your position and honor what it's quietly asking for. Because the most profound self-care doesn't come from overhauls. It comes from small, consistent corrections made with wisdom and care. 2. Tight fetal position. Compresses lungs and restricts oxygen intake. Encouraged poor spinal posture over time, possibly leading to kyphosis. Fix. Loosen the curl, lower the knees. Use a body pillow for support. If the flat back position is the illusion of alignment, then the fetal position is the illusion of safety, curled tightly on your side. Knees tucked into your chest, arms pulled in like you're shielding yourself from the world. It's a position we instinctively adopt when we're cold, when we're hurt, when we feel emotionally fragile. It's no wonder that as we age and the world grows quieter, we often return to this posture without realizing the cost. Because for many seniors, the fetal position is not just a sleep habit, it's a subconscious attempt to retreat from uncertainty, to recreate a sense of enclosure. But while the mind may interpret this curl as comfort, the body eventually sees it as confinement. And that's where the damage begins. Because the moment you tuck too tightly, you compress your lungs, restrict your breath, and introduce a cascade of physical consequences that silently unravel you one shallow breath at a time. Let's start with the obvious. When your knees are pressed up toward your chest and your chin tilts downward, your chest cavity closes in on itself. And for someone in their 60s, 70s, or beyond, whose lung elasticity and diaphragm function are already diminished from aging. This position further restricts oxygen intake, and oxygen isn't just about breath. It's about cell repair, memory consolidation, heart health, and energy restoration. So what looks cozy from the outside is, for your internal systems, a state of deprivation, and it shows up the next day as fogginess, grogginess, irritability, or a vague heaviness in the chest that you can't quite place. But the signs are there, if you know what to look for, and there's another layer, your spine, which adapts over time to whatever positions you put it in. If you spend 6 to 8 hours a night curled like a comma, night after night, your back begins to remember that curve, your posture adapts, and this can eventually lead to kyphosis, a condition characterized by a hunched upper back and forward-leaning neck, which doesn't just affect how you look, but how you breathe, how you digest, how you balance, and even how people perceive your presence in a room. Because posture speaks before words ever do, this isn't hypothetical. It's a visible trend in elderly adults who've unknowingly trained their bodies to curve inward over decades, especially during sleep. Let me tell you about Shirley, a 78-year-old widow from Michigan, who for years slept in a deeply curled fetal position after losing her husband. Her sleep grew restless and her posture tighter, almost as if her grief wrapped itself around her spine. She didn't notice the shift at first, until she began waking up with chest tightness and a strange emotional heaviness she couldn't explain. No pain, just a persistent pressure, like she was wearing an invisible vest. Her doctor ruled out heart issues, but a physical therapist noticed her posture and sleeping style and suggested a simple change: loosening the curl, lowering her knees, and using a supportive body pillow to keep her chest more open. Within a month, her morning anxiety diminished, her breathing deepened, and she said, "I didn't know how much tension I was sleeping in until it was gone." Sometimes, the body carries emotion not through tears, but through tension, and sleep posture is often where that tension hides. Now, let's be clear, side sleeping isn't the problem. It's how tightly you curl that creates issues. There's a difference between sleeping on your side and collapsing into a ball, and that difference matters more the older you get, because your tissues become less elastic, your lungs less expansive, your joints less forgiving. So when you wake up with stiff shoulders, a sore neck, or a compressed chest, don't just assume it's normal aging. Ask yourself, how did I sleep last night? And what shape did my body hold for those 6 to 8 hours? If you're a chronic tight curler, start by adjusting slowly. Use a full-body pillow to support your top leg and prevent your knees from pulling too high. Keep your bottom arm extended slightly to avoid shoulder compression, and place a small cushion between your knees to keep your hips aligned and your spine straight. You're not abandoning the fetal position entirely. You're unlearning the parts of it that suffocate rather than soothe. Because the goal of sleep isn't to hide, it's to heal. And healing requires openness, alignment, and breath. There's also an emotional truth here that we don't talk about enough. Many seniors curl tightly not because of physical comfort, but because of emotional retreat, loneliness, grief, anxiety, fear of the future. These things don't just show up during the day. They follow us into the night and reshape our posture while we sleep. And if you've ever woken up feeling emotionally drained without understanding why, it might not be your thoughts, it might be your shape. Because the way you sleep is the way you tell your nervous system what to expect. Are you bracing for impact, or are you truly letting go? So tonight, when you get into bed, notice how you fold your body. Do you shrink? Or do you expand? Do you protect? Or do you trust? Because even in sleep, Your posture is a conversation between your mind and your body, and if you want to age with clarity, vitality, and emotional steadiness, you must begin listening to what that posture is really saying. 3. Sleeping on the stomach twists the neck and overarches the lower back. Can cause nerve compression, morning headaches, and breathing restriction. Fix. Transition to side or supported back sleeping with wedge or body pillows. There's something strangely reassuring about lying face down. Some people say it feels grounding, as if they're being held to the earth by something solid, and still others swear it's the only way they've been able to fall asleep for decades. A lifelong habit that's never done them any harm, or so they think. But what if I told you that stomach sleeping is like walking barefoot through a field of broken glass, silent, familiar, but dangerous with every step you take, because unlike other positions that cause strain over time, stomach sleeping immediately begins placing your spine, your breath, your blood flow, and your nervous system into positions they were never designed to tolerate for hours on end. And for seniors, the consequences aren't just discomfort, they're slow, structural erosion. Let's begin with the spine. When you lie on your stomach, your lower back doesn't stay neutral. It arches. Why? Because gravity pushes your hips down into the mattress while your upper body resists that sink, pulling your lumbar spine into exaggerated extension. This arch creates constant tension in the soft tissues of your lower back, overstretching muscles, compressing joints, and tightening tendons. Now, if you're 25, your body may bounce back in the morning, but if you're 65 or older, with even mild degenerative disc disease or arthritis, this nightly strain accumulates quickly, often leading to morning stiffness that seems random but is actually chronic. Inflammation being re-aggravated every single night. Now think about your neck. Because you can't sleep with your face buried in the pillow, your head has to turn often, dramatically to one side, and usually the same side every night. This prolonged rotation compresses cervical nerves, restricts blood flow, and creates tension in the upper trapezius and scalene muscles, which can manifest as neck stiffness, shoulder pain, tingling in the arms, and even unexplained headaches or jaw tension. If you've ever woken up and wondered why your head hurts when you slept just fine, this might be the reason. It's not a headache. It's a posture-induced strain echoing up your spine. Let me tell you about Richard, a 72-year-old retired firefighter from New York, who'd been sleeping on his stomach since he was a kid. He liked the pressure on his chest, the feeling of stillness, but over time, he began waking up with headaches and tightness between his shoulder blades that no massage or medication could fix. His doctors checked for everything from migraines to blood pressure. But it wasn't until he met with a sleep therapist that they even asked about his position. Reluctantly, he tried switching to a side sleeping posture using a full-body pillow and a firm wedge under his knees. It wasn't easy. He tossed and turned for a few weeks, but then something shifted. His headaches stopped, his shoulder pain eased, and he said he hadn't realized how bad he felt until the fog finally lifted. And here's the deeper concern that most stomach sleepers never realize. When you sleep face down, your chest and abdomen are compressed against the mattress, which restricts natural lung expansion and abdominal movement. This means your breathing becomes shallow, your diaphragm less mobile, your oxygen intake limited, all while you sleep, unaware that your body is working harder for less result. And in older adults, shallow sleep means poor detoxification of the brain, weaker immune recovery, and increased risk of cardiovascular strain. Yes, your heart suffers too, as it tries to pump through a system slightly starved of air. But the issue doesn't stop at breath and bones. There's digestion to consider. When Your stomach is compressed for 6 to 8 hours against a firm surface. Pressure builds within your abdominal cavity, slowing the movement of your intestines and increasing the likelihood of bloating, indigestion, or acid reflux. And if you already struggle with those issues during the day, stomach sleeping turns your night into a quiet war zone of suppressed symptoms that re-emerge the moment you rise. There's even a psychological layer. Sleep researchers have noted that face-down sleeping is sometimes linked to heightened bodily tension, a subconscious effort to brace or protect oneself, particularly in individuals experiencing chronic anxiety, unresolved grief, or emotional overwhelm. It's as if the body tries to bury its vulnerability under the weight of itself. This isn't true for everyone, of course, but if you feel more irritable, restless, or emotionally raw in the mornings after a night of stomach sleep, your posture may be sending your nervous system the wrong message. And here's what makes this position particularly hard to quit: muscle memory, especially when tied to comfort. It's not just a sleep habit, it's an identity trait for many who've slept this way for years. But here's the truth you need to hear. Comfort isn't the same as care, and familiarity doesn't equal health. So if you've been a lifelong stomach sleeper and are now experiencing unexplained neck pain, joint stiffness, fatigue, or mood irregularities, it might be time to question the ground beneath your rest. Start slow. Use a body pillow to support side sleeping and keep your torso stable. Place a soft wedge under your hips if you're transitioning gradually, or slightly elevate your head and shoulders to reduce spinal torque. Even partial changes, made with consistency, can yield powerful results. And remember, this isn't about giving up your comfort, it's about redefining it so your body can not only sleep, but heal, renew, and prepare you for the day ahead. 4. Sleeping in a reclined sitting position. Common in recliners or propped up beds. Leads to neck strain, poor circulation in legs, and weakened sleep quality. Fix: elevate the head of the bed while maintaining spinal alignment. It often begins as a temporary fix, a few restless nights due to back pain, or a flare-up of acid reflux, or a cold that makes lying flat unbearable. So you pull the lever on your recliner, stack a few pillows behind you, and try to get some sleep sitting up. And to your surprise, it works for a while. But then days turn into weeks, and weeks turn into a nightly routine where you never make it back to your bed. And without even noticing, that just for now position becomes your new normal. And here's where the trouble starts. Because sleeping in a reclined, semi-seated posture may seem like a compromise, but over time, it becomes a posture of tension, not restoration. And what feels like relief is often the slow trade-off of muscle function, circulatory health, and spinal integrity. Let's start with the basics. When you sleep in a recliner or propped up with multiple pillows, your spine is rarely in its natural alignment. Your head often falls forward or tilts subtly to one side, especially if your neck isn't well supported. And while this might not wake you up in pain, it shortens the muscles at the front of the neck and overstretches those at the back, contributing to chronic stiffness, reduced mobility, and a condition known as text neck. Even if you never look at a screen, this posture also narrows the throat, reducing airflow and making deep breathing more difficult, which means your body doesn't get the oxygen it needs during critical stages of rest. And for seniors with already compromised respiratory strength, this means less restorative sleep, more fatigue, and a brain that wakes up only partially recharged. Now think about your lower half when you're reclined with bent knees and hips. Your legs remain in a semi-seated position for hours, and unlike lying flat, This blocks full venous return, meaning your blood doesn't circulate as efficiently from your feet back up to your heart. This can result in morning leg cramps, swollen ankles, or the gradual development of varicose veins. And while these symptoms might seem minor, they're not harmless, because for older adults, poor circulation isn't just about comfort. It increases the risk of clot formation, numbness, and long-term vascular strain. I want to tell you about Gary, a 74-year-old veteran from Oregon, who began sleeping in his recliner to deal with acid reflux. It worked initially, and he was relieved to avoid the burning sensation he used to feel when lying down. But after a few months, he began to notice his hands tingling in the morning, his neck sore, and his legs feeling strangely heavy. He didn't make the connection right away because there was no trauma, no injury, just this creeping sense of dysfunction. His doctor finally traced it to the recliner sleeping position, and with the help of an adjustable bed and wedge pillows designed to elevate his upper body without breaking spinal alignment, he transitioned back to proper sleep posture within weeks. His symptoms improved, his breathing deepened, and for the first time in months, he said he felt like he was charging again instead of just drifting through the night on low battery. That metaphor matters because sleeping in a semi-sitting position is like plugging your phone into a weak charger. It might power on, but it never fills up, and your body too needs full rest to fully restore. Not just surface-level stillness, but deep muscular release, parasympathetic activation, and undisturbed tissue repair. None of which happen optimally when your muscles remain engaged in a reclined seated curve. Your core stays slightly braced, your shoulders rounded forward, and your spine subtly compressed, as if you're waiting for the moment to sit up completely. And that anticipation, even unconscious, keeps your nervous system from truly letting go. But there's more. Postural imprinting is real. And if you sleep night after night in a forward curled position, your body begins to believe that's its default, and suddenly you find yourself sitting hunched at the breakfast table, walking with rounded shoulders, and struggling to stand up straight, not because of age alone, but because your muscles have been trained, hour by hour, to normalize imbalance. And the longer this goes on, the harder it becomes to reverse. Your posture deteriorates, your balance falters, and the risk of falls, injury, and long-term discomfort multiplies. Even psychologically, this position carries weight. Seniors who sleep in recliners often describe their sleep as light, interrupted, or unsettled. And it makes sense, because the body never gets the full sensory cue that says, "You're safe. You can release." Instead, you remain half engaged, like a guard on duty instead of a guest at rest. And over time, that subtle vigilance erodes the emotional and neurological benefits that real sleep provides. Now, this isn't to say you can never recline. Some people need elevation for medical reasons, like GERD or COPD, but there's a big difference between mindful elevation and passive slouching. If you must sleep inclined, do so with intention. Use a wedge pillow that supports the spine without curling it. Ensure your head, neck, and upper back are aligned, and place a pillow under your knees to reduce strain on the hips and lower back. This small discipline can preserve your alignment, improve your breath, and restore the healing capacity of your sleep, even when flat rest isn't an option. Because here's the bottom line: recliner sleeping might feel like an act of relief, but unless it's carefully structured, it becomes an act of retreat, a withdrawal from alignment, from oxygen, from true rest. And the cost is too high, especially when better solutions are within reach. 5. Face down sleeping compresses chest and abdomen, causing shallow breathing and digestive issues. Increases risk of neck misalignment, organ pressure, and emotional tension. Fix: shift gradually to supported side or inclined back sleeping. There's a particular kind of stillness to sleeping face down. It feels like surrender, like being held by gravity in a full-bodied embrace. And for some, especially those who've done it for decades, it's the only position that lets their mind quiet enough to drift off. But here's the part no one tells you. That same quiet may come at the cost of circulation, respiration, digestion, and spinal alignment. And for seniors, those costs compound night after night in ways you don't notice until they've already reshaped the way you move, breathe, and feel. And that's the danger. Because stomach sleeping isn't usually painful, it's subtle, silent, and accumulative. Let's start with what happens at the neck, because you can't sleep directly into the mattress. Your head must twist sharply to one side, and often it stays twisted for 6 to 8 hours, placing constant tension on the cervical spine, particularly the upper vertebrae near the base of the skull. This rotation narrows the vertebral arteries, reduces blood flow to the brain, and tightens the muscles responsible for head and shoulder movement, which is why so many lifelong stomach sleepers wake up with unexplained headaches, dizziness, or jaw tightness. It's not a bad dream. It's biomechanical strain. And if you already have arthritis or disc thinning in the neck, this position can make things worse without a single warning sign during the night. And then there's your back. Sleeping on your stomach flattens the natural curvature of the spine, especially in the lumbar region where your belly presses into the mattress, causing the pelvis to tilt downward and the lower back to hyperextend over time. This position overstretches the ligaments supporting your spine, compresses the discs, and irritates the nerve roots branching out toward your hips and legs. And unlike injuries you can see, this kind of wear happens slowly, almost politely, until one day you wake up and realize that your back just doesn't move the way it used to. And you chalk it up to age when really, it might be the position you've assumed every night for 30 years. Let's talk about your organs, because when you lie face down, your abdominal cavity gets compressed. And this affects more than just comfort. It impairs digestion by reducing intestinal mobility, contributes to acid reflux by pushing stomach contents upward, and limits the natural movement of the diaphragm, which means your breath becomes shallow and your body remains in a low-level stress response, unable to fully drop into the parasympathetic rest and digest state where true healing takes place. This can manifest as bloating, fatigue, or even inflammation that has no clear cause. And again, the culprit may be something as simple as posture. Let me share the story of Linda, a 71-year-old painter from Minnesota, who had been a stomach sleeper since her early 20s. She said it made her feel protected, like curling inward from the world. But as she got older, she began waking up with back pain and neck tension, and worse, a kind of emotional heaviness. She couldn't explain at first. She thought it was grief or age, until a physical therapist gently pointed out how her sleeping position mimicked the same tension she carried during the day, always bracing, always guarding, always pressing inward. She was encouraged to shift to a supported side sleeping posture, using a long pillow and a wedge under her shoulder. And although it felt unnatural at first, within 3 weeks her pain lessened and her mood stabilized. She said, "I didn't realize how much my body was trying to protect me, even while I slept. And that insight changed everything." Because here's the emotional layer: stomach sleeping isn't just physical, it's psychological for some people, especially those who've experienced emotional hardship. This posture reflects a subconscious desire to retreat, to shield, to protect the most vulnerable parts of the self by pressing them against the bed. But over time, that withdrawal becomes chronic, and instead of restoring the self, it ends up reinforcing tension, and healing cannot happen in a clenched state, even if it looks peaceful from the outside. But here's the good news. Change is possible, even if you've been a stomach sleeper your entire adult life. Your body can adapt with the right support. Start with a full-length body pillow that gives your arms and legs something to anchor into, helping you stay on your side without feeling exposed. Elevate your upper torso slightly to reduce the urge to roll forward. And consider using a firmer mattress to discourage deep sinking of your midsection. These changes might feel awkward at first, but within a few weeks your spine will begin to respond, your breath will deepen, and your mornings will feel less like recovery and more like renewal, because the goal isn't to sleep properly, like some rulebook dictates. It's to sleep in a way that aligns with healing, with breath, with digestion, with mental clarity, and with emotional calm. And stomach sleeping, no matter how familiar, often pulls you away from all of that. Not in one dramatic injury, but in thousands of tiny compromises that eventually steal your comfort, mobility, and sense of peace. 6. Unsupported back sleeping leads to lumbar pressure, sleep apnea, and acid reflux. May cause feelings of vulnerability and mental restlessness. Fix. Elevate the head slightly. Place a small pillow underneath. It looks so harmless, so balanced, so symmetrical, so neutral. Sleeping on your back, arms by your side, face turned gently toward the ceiling. It's the position you see in meditation guides, hospital beds, and yoga cool downs. It's considered by many to be the most natural posture. And for some, it is. But here's the missing piece. Only when it's properly supported, because for seniors who carry decades of accumulated tension, joint wear, and muscle loss, lying flat without key supports can quietly distort the spine, impair circulation, worsen breathing, and even contribute to neurological fatigue. What starts as a still, quiet shape becomes a slowly collapsing structure under its own weight. Let's begin with the spine. When you're younger, your lower back naturally holds a slight inward curve, known as the lumbar lordosis. But as we age, our core strength diminishes and gravity starts pulling us into flattening patterns. Especially if you lie completely flat on a mattress that doesn't support your curves. Your pelvis tilts, your lower spine arches upward unnaturally, and instead of resting, your back muscles stay in subtle tension all night, trying to stabilize an alignment that should have been aided by cushions, not corrected by muscles. And the result? Morning tightness, aching hamstrings, that signature slow shuffle to the bathroom while your body recalibrates itself. And it's not just aging, it's the absence of spinal support. Now let's talk about your airway. Sleeping on your back can cause your tongue to fall backward toward the throat, especially in deeper stages of sleep when the muscles relax. And for seniors who already face reduced respiratory strength, this subtle blockage can lead to partial airway obstruction, triggering snoring, mild sleep apnea, or even full apnea in undiagnosed cases. And it's not always dramatic. You might not jolt awake gasping, but you will feel tired during the day, foggy, irritable, or emotionally fragile. And these symptoms are often misattributed to aging, diet, or stress, when in reality, it's your body simply telling you, I can't breathe properly in this position. And then there's cognitive recovery. Deep sleep is when your brain clears out metabolic waste, consolidates memory, and resets hormonal balance. But oxygen is the fuel that powers those processes. And if your airway is compromised, even slightly, your brain is working in low-power mode, and over months or years, this deficit can mimic early cognitive decline, making you feel slower, less sharp, less able to handle life's complexity. And it's not that your brain is failing. It's that your sleep posture isn't giving it what it needs to thrive. Let's take George, a 76-year-old retired school principal from Indiana. He was always a disciplined man, slept at the same time every night, stayed hydrated, read before bed, but he couldn't shake the fog he felt in the morning or the tightness in his lower back. His chiropractor noticed a consistent flattening of his lumbar spine and asked him about his sleeping. Setup George admitted he always slept flat on his back with one pillow under his head, no leg support. He was advised to raise his head slightly and place a cushion under his knees to restore the natural spinal curve. Within a week, he said his brain felt awake again. Within a month, his back stopped aching, and he even returned to daily walks without that early morning stiffness. What changed? Not his age, not his diet, just a few inches of mindful support. And if you're someone who sleeps on your back and feels fine, don't panic. This isn't about fear, it's about precision, because even good positions become dangerous when they're left unsupported. And the older we get, the more every inch of misalignment begins to cost us in the spine, in the lungs, in the heart, and in the brain. And yes, we need to talk about reflux too when you lie flat, especially after a late dinner or a glass of wine. Stomach acid can travel upward into the esophagus, especially if your upper body isn't slightly elevated. That burning in your chest, the nighttime coughing, the sour taste in your throat, these aren't random. They're your digestion rebelling against gravity. And by simply raising your head by 6 to 10 degrees with a wedge or adjustable base, you can reduce that pressure and allow your gut to finally rest. Even emotionally, back sleeping with no support can trigger subtle feelings of vulnerability. Lying open, exposed, without tactile feedback under the knees or around the arms, can subconsciously cue your nervous system into staying alert, even while asleep. And for seniors living alone or recovering from trauma, this can show up as shallow breathing, frequent waking, or unexplained nighttime anxiety. Again, not because of what's in your mind, but because of what's happening in your body shape. So, what do? You refine the posture. Add a small, firm pillow under your knees to restore lumbar alignment. Use a contoured neck pillow that keeps your head in line with your spine. Raise your head slightly to improve breathing and reduce reflux. Consider placing a light blanket across your torso or a bolster alongside your body to cue comfort and containment. These aren't big changes, but they signal safety to your muscles and alignment to your bones. And over time, they give your body the freedom to actually rest instead of working all night just to hold you together. Because sleep, especially as we age, should not be about survival. It should be about strategic support, about giving our body the exact scaffolding it needs to heal, restore, and recharge, so we don't just wake up, we rise. So now, here we are, at the end of what at first might have seemed like a technical breakdown of posture and pressure points, but is actually something far deeper. A quiet unveiling of the truth that the way you sleep, the posture you assume every single night, may be shaping not only how you wake up, but how you walk through the rest of your day, how you breathe, how you think, how you feel, and yes, how well you age. Because sleep isn't just a nightly pause in life, it's where healing happens. And healing depends not just on time but on alignment, support, and intention. You've now seen how sleeping flat on your back without support can compress your lower spine, obstruct your airway, and silently strain your heart. How curling tightly into the fetal position may comfort your emotions, but restrict your lungs and distort your posture. How sleeping face down can damage your neck, hinder your breath, and suppress digestion without ever causing a sharp pain to alert you that something's wrong. How resting in a recliner might feel like relief, but robs your body of true muscular release and full body restoration. And how sleeping in any position, no matter how normal it feels, becomes harmful when it lacks mindful support for the curves, joints, and rhythms of a body that has carried decades of life. And perhaps more important than the biomechanics is the message your posture sends to your subconscious every night. Am I safe? Am I supported? Am I bracing for life or surrendering to it? These are the questions your nervous system quietly answers as you sleep, and the way you position your body either affirms or contradicts that sense of safety, of peace, of healing. Now, you might be thinking, this is overwhelming. I can't change how I sleep overnight, and you're right. But you don't need to overhaul everything. You need to listen. The most powerful transformation begins with awareness. Just noticing how your body feels when you wake up, asking, is there tension in my neck? A weight in my chest? A dull ache in my lower back? And if there is, don't accept it as a sentence of age, trace it back. Explore your position, examine your supports, and make one change, just one. Place a pillow under your knees tonight. If you sleep on your back, hug a body pillow to soften your curl if you sleep on your side. Prop up your upper body with a wedge if reflux haunts your nights. Or simply try to fall asleep on your side rather than your stomach. These aren't dramatic changes. They're gentle shifts that honor the messages your body's been whispering to you for years. And maybe, just maybe, you'll be like Henry, who regained his dream recall after elevating his head by just 10 degrees, or Shirley, who softened her emotional grief by loosening her tightly curled frame, or Richard, who finally woke up without headaches after leaving stomach sleeping behind, or Linda, who felt emotionally lighter when her sleep posture stopped pressing her heart into silence, or George, who after years of waking foggy, finally opened his eyes with clarity, all because of a pillow under his knees. These people didn't reverse time, but they respected it. They chose to sleep in a way that didn't fight against age, but partnered with it, supported it, worked with it, and in doing so, they reminded us all that aging, well, isn't about fighting harder. It's about listening better. Because at the end of the day, literally sleep is where your body gets to repair itself without your interference, where your systems coordinate without your direction, and where your spirit quietly resets for whatever comes next. And if we can honor that process with a little care, a little intention, and a lot less assumption, we give ourselves the chance to not just sleep more, but to wake up better. So tonight, before you pull the covers over your shoulders, pause, notice the shape your body settles into. Ask yourself if you feel held, not by the mattress, but by your own awareness, because the greatest form of self-care isn't what you do when you're awake, it's how you prepare yourself to surrender when you're not.